Citizens of St. Kitts Nevis, wake up. Open your eyes, arise from your slumber. Hatred for one another must stop. We're blood family, separated by water. As we grab at each other's throat, foreigners sit back and gloat. Some of them really hope we'll destroy this country. Let's move in one direction. Show the world we have a plan as a people with one destiny. The time to unite is now. It is the only way how we can regain our pride, my brother. Fight the urge to pull apart and say that it's time to start to try and pull ourselves together. Brothers and sisters, neighbors and friends, time for the hostilities to end. Dispel the disgusting trend to offend each other. We can't continue to row. We must make a change somehow. And brothers, the time is now.
Get alive, get alive.
Whenever foreign investors come, we open our doors and rush to fill their agenda. We give them some of our choicest land. Whether or not it's cash they come here to launder. Some run from prosecution for crimes in their own homeland. Some come down with the notion they go find cheap labor. We can't play into their hand. Let's defend this little nation from the return of the white massa. The time to stand up is now. It is the only way how things can be rectified, my brother. Tell them leaders play their part. Sit and have a heart to heart. Get smart, don't let outsiders take over. This land is not big enough to share. There is not 1 acre to spare. Foreigners who come here can't lay claim forever. We can't continue to bow. We must make a stand somehow. And brothers, the time is now.
Get alive, get alive.
Foreigners come and charm us with smiles, but all the while they're harming with children's future. Realize their smiling faces tell lies. Our children's cries must not be the fact of this matter. History teachers, don't you forget, they once came with chains and muskets and exploited our forefathers out of land and labor. We are going to relive that pain if we let foreigners obtain the land we've maintained for the youth's future. The time to stand up is now. It is the only way how we can remain in stride, my brother. Utilize your head and heart and say it's time to depart from the divisive ways we have. Don't be a pawn in the white man's game. Our forefathers would be ashamed to realize so little has changed. So many years later, we can't continue to bow. We must make a change somehow. And brothers, the time is now.
Sounds of the King Ginger. Good afternoon, good evening. I'm JefroyMorrishaw coming to you live and direct from the Gaza here in the Boogie Down Bronx. It's a lovely Wednesday afternoon here in the Bronx area. Decided to drop in a little early this evening, kicking it off at 5 p.m., 5 to 7, giving you folks the opportunity to go and look at your CPL, as I will be looking at CPL myself, that is taking place there this evening in our beloved Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. So it's going to be at the Warner Park Stadium this evening at 7 p.m. and I'll be right there at the first ball bowl or even at this task span myself, and I'm pretty sure the man Ivor Henry will be in the house as well, looking at some good old cricket. Well, my good people, it's been a long week, and there's a lot to discuss, a lot to speak about, a lot is happening in the Federation. We're not doing any overtime this evening, as you know, like I said, the CPL, so there's gonna be some stuff that left undone. But I want to first and foremost big up the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Terence Drew. I realize that he's kicking in gear. He's playing some serious CPL cricket there in a bill of federation. He start coming to the people with the information that was left there by the former Team Unity administration. So last week he talked some things there on Freedom FM, some serious matters in regards to the development bank and the social security and other stuff. And would you believe the farmer had the nerve to say that he's coming to the press conference earlier today? But I do not know whether it was planned or not. But I'm happy that the wisdom of the Prime Minister was to have a little chat as well earlier this afternoon, that he was able to debunk some of that conversation that the farmer had tried to bring forth. So my good people, next week we'll definitely catch up and a lot of what's taking place there in the Bill of Federation. But we're going to be striking this evening. We'll be doing some strike voting this evening. So before I get straight into my brother there, Dwyer Astafan's commentary, which we're going to kick off with this afternoon, another bomber, another powerful commentary coming out of the man, brother G.A. Dwyer Astafan. I think I'm going to drop another track here and we get straight into brother Dwyer Astafan. Share the live, my good people. My brother there, I do not know if he'll be watching cricket this evening or he'll be joining me, but brother Kelvin Daly, he is supposed to drop in on me this evening that we could have a quick chit chat before we go on to our CPL cricket. I also want to say to the dancing commissioner, welcome. Dancing commissioner is in the house with me, the man Austin Williams. I want to say good afternoon as well to Sister Gwyneth Morrishaw. How about Sister Beverly Morrishaw? How are you doing? Hope all is well. Want to big up Sister Cora Bennett. Also the Sister Tracy Powell. Hope all is well with you guys. I understand there is a couple of deaths there in St. Paul's again. I want to send condolences to the Maynard family there. My boy Bombo, Ninja 2, and the passing of your son Daki. I also want to big up all of that family, Mary, and the rest of the Goodman Clefroy. And just a good evening to Sister Ruthlyn Hill. How are you doing, Ruthlyn Hill Brown? I hope you're doing well. My engineer there, Brother Ike. Hope all is well with you, Brother Ike. The man Alvan Brown. How are you doing? The man Alvan Hanley. Hope all is well with you as well. How is the wife? I hope you guys are doing well in your new location. I'm gonna drop a track here, and I would hope that this one, you would love this one. This one is called Rise. The man La Tumba.
From day to day, without the thought for tomorrow, we exist and wait and wait. While all around us, the times are changing. Men are determined to rise above their present status. We'll also survive if we let prudence guide and dictate for the pathway of our state. We're deadly. Arise, it's Independence Time. must be strong with a passion for the glory of our Lord. Let us be rid of this new colonialistic nightmare. Forward as one, and our nation will be strong for 1,000
Forward
years.
as one.
Independence and beyond,
Way beyond.
and beyond. The road may be dark, things may not be the way we like them to be, but let us push on, let us try. Love conquers all, so let us make lullaby. Triumph and tribulation will shout again, a united voice, intense in our earnest desire to achieve and maintain a nation proud and free. Sing along with me. Arise, it's Independence Time. Arise and claim your sovereign right. With our hearts and hands as one, our conviction must be strong. With a passion for the glory of our land. Let us be rid of this new colonialistic nightmare. Forward as one, and our nation will be strong for 1,000,000
Forward as
years.
one.
Independence and beyond,
Way beyond.
and beyond.
To the law, to the law. Take it, Nevis. Forward as one. Enough respect to my brother, Lady Man Carlo. Oh, you know it. Good evening.
Clouds will intervene, dark and treacherous they'll be, with hate in their eye, death's on their mind, though in the sky. They'll never prosper, through power be in their hands. Their very acts of oppression will drive the state within their bosom. Suffer to be wise, whether in labor to be free, and will be from now till eternity. Sing along with me. Arise, it's Independence Time. Arise and claim your sovereign right. With our hearts and hands as one, our conviction must be strong. With a passion for the glory of our land. Let us be rid of this new colonialistic nightmare. Forward as one, and our nation will be strong for 1,000,000
Forward as
years.
one.
Independence and beyond,
Way beyond.
and beyond.
Lord Kent. Mr. Daly, how are you doing? Yeah, I just love that track there by La Tumba. Arise Independence Time as we get ready to celebrate our 40th anniversary of Independence Day in our beloved Federation of St. Kitts Nevis. We definitely has to forward as one and show support to the hard-working Honorable Prime Minister, the man himself, the Honorable Dr. Terrence Michael Joe, holding down the fort. Big up yourself, big up yourself. Great presentation earlier today on Freedom FM. Nice response to the farmer hag. When they come out and they're not a living glass house, tell them don't trust stone because we're going to throw the whole pig at them, the whole pen, as a matter of fact. Good evening, Sister Abigail Archibald. How are you doing? Sister Tracy Mason. I haven't heard from you in a bit. How about the man EK? The man Monarch, the man DJ Rani Rascal. How about the man DJ Rabuka? How are you doing? The man Curtis Crook. I want to big up the man there, but Dwyer Astafana. coming to you with a big presentation in a few minutes. The man Sam Conda, the man Larry Vaughan, the big lights, the Douglas Watley there, the man Dr. Martin, Ira McMahon, how are you doing? Hope all is well. Diane Flanders, how are you doing? Good evening. Tisha Stapleton, good evening. How are you doing? Also, want to big up Deacon Oral Jeffers. How are you doing, sir? How are you doing? Everything good with you? Which part in the world are you? Are you in Nevis or are you in the Bronx, New York? Frankie Lawrence, good evening. How are you doing? Good afternoon. Loretta Wharton, good night. I think you're in the UK area, so it should be good night at this point in the UK. Evan Jeffers, you're in the UK as well. Good night. How are you doing? Patricia Cruz here. Flores Bryan, Tilleman, Gemini Nisbet, how are you doing? Also want to big up Ornette Williams there, Gigi Williams Keith. Iona Door, Magdalene, how are you doing? The man Myla Baxterman, how are you doing? All is well. I drop on early for you today, because I don't want you to miss the CPL and all. You're on contract to listen to the program and do your thing. So I want to make sure you don't miss a beat, Charlene Jeffers, how are you doing? Good evening. How are you doing? Is everything okay? Ruthven Hill. All right. Athlete Morgan. I want to big up my brother Thaddeus Depos. How are you doing? The man Everson Harris there in the Toronto area. So let's take a listen to Brother Dwyer Astafan and we get right into the program this afternoon.
Greetings. Last week we discussed certain criminal offenses and the death penalty. This week we will ask the question, what are the causes of this violent criminal behavior? And we'll discuss other points. There are basically two influences on us and on how we go through life. One is the genes which we inherit from our parents and our ancestors, and the other is the combination of the home and the educational, spiritual, social, cultural, physical, and economic environments which help to shape us. And we need to understand these influences and how they can interplay or conflict with each other. We have to understand them because doing so and understanding the need for more interplay and less conflict between these influences are the first step in the absolutely necessary process of crafting a system of ground rules, which includes our laws, but more than just our laws, and values by which we are to be guided, and which provide us with a foundation for our safety, security, stability, sustainability, and success as individuals and as a society. Let's start with the genetics. Very early in life, our children need to be professionally monitored for inherited potential behavior and emotional problems. And whatever problems may exist have to be addressed, and the addressing of these problems has to involve parents and guardians, not parents. And I say parents because too many of our men like to drop our pants but are unwilling to pull up our socks. Too many of us are sperm donors and not fathers, while too many of our women are child bearers but not mothers. And too many of us are so wrapped up in sexual recreation that we seem to forget the responsibilities of procreation, not to mention sexually transmitted diseases and the health, social, and economic consequences of them. Too many of our homes are broken. Sadly, there is more transactionalism than affection, more now for now than seeking out someone of good character with whom we can grow and walk life's journey. Let me repeat this point. Too many of our parents have exercised their biological franchise to reproduce, but have no clue, and in some cases, very little care about raising children. They're not trained to do so. And this fundamental deficiency has been worsened by the fact that we don't look out for each other as we once did. No longer is the village raising the child. And if the village is not raising the child, then the child is not being raised. And while some parents may try their best, they are sometimes unable to compete against influences on their children from outside of the home. To add to that, Our institutions and our systems are either broken or not functioning properly and effectively. And if there's any truth in what I've just said, then we really are not abiding by any constructive ground rules or value systems. So it should come as no surprise that in such an environment, there'll be the kind of crime that we are seeing. Let me go to some specifics. Our education system. There are children in grade 6 who can only read and comprehend at grade 2 level, but they are still being graduated and sent up to high school. We're sending these children over the cliff into criminality, unproductive socially and economically. The situation with the reading and comprehension is worse in the case of children who have been and who are being brought here from the Dominican Republic, who can't speak any English at all. I had a chat with a very wise educator, and here is some of what he said to me. He said, ours was a society where the church was very much a part of the human construct, but all of that has gone to the wind, blown away by some, as he says, immoral hurricane. To that I would add that with the notable, instructive, and inspiring exception of Rastafarian levity, there is very little grounding in spirituality, whether connected to a religion or not. And a human being without a spiritual grounding is an incomplete being. And if we are going to be honest, let's be honest. While I believe that most pastors are well-intentioned, it seems to me that some people set up church more to make a good tax-free living for themselves rather than to help build a strong spiritual foundation among their members and in the community. And speaking of churches and religion, it seems that since religions were established, more people hate and kill each other in the name of God than for any other reason. It seems to me that religion has been used to divide more than to unite people. Maybe that is something which we can and should address if we want to be honest and if we sincerely seek to pacify and solidify our spirituality. This is a global problem. Meanwhile, back here in St. Kitts, children do not go to school. They go and come as they please. And nobody seems to have a handle on these things. There are gangs in schools, boys and girls. Some go to school to sell stuff illegally to other students. The esteemed educator went on to tell me that the children carry home the money and other ill-gotten gains to their parents or to whoever might be in charge of them, including the gang leaders, because these children are perfect fodder, perfect candidates with their social and economic deprivation, perfect fodder for gang membership. And a lot of them are in gangs. Parents, preachers, principals, teachers, gate men, all of them, all of us are responsible for this situation. We're not doing our duty. Look at the streets at night. Look at some of the areas around some of these Chinese shops and other shops. Groups of children hanging out. Nobody's going to them, asking them what they're doing at these hours out of their homes. Nobody's sending them home. People are afraid of them. The law is not being enforced against their parents with regard to curfews for children who are under a certain age. Some of these children beg you when you go there, both boys and girls. These are future or present gang members, future shooters and robbers, future early occupants of the prison or the cemetery, and most definitely prime candidates for gangs, products of a failed education and social development system, products of a disjointed and disunited community. The educator went on. He said that police pass by these children and do nothing. Preachers pass by and do nothing. The parents or single parent at home can't be bothered on social media or on something else other than carrying out his or her prime responsibility, which is to guide the child. This is a perfect breeding ground, especially given the realities of economic hardship and a deficient education and social development system. A perfect environment, a perfect breeding ground for the next generation of robbers and murderers. And if you want to know where a country will be in the next 30 years, look at its young people of the present. And what you see does not paint a pretty picture. What we are seeing are the shooters and the robbers of tomorrow. Then we have very loose and open borders. We are a country of just over 100 square miles and 50,000 people. And this arrangement in which we are involved with CARICOM, whereby people are allowed to come in here from countries that have populations that are 40 times the size of ours, and worse so countries which have been economic, social, crime-riddled basket cases. This arrangement is not good for us. We are already vulnerable, and it has made us more vulnerable, especially given the fact that little or no due diligence is done on people coming in from those countries, so that all kinds of people can walk in here. Seasoned criminals, mostly good people, but all it takes is one seasoned criminal to put a little country like this in trouble, to set a bad example. We saw that happen years ago when somebody was released from the United States and came here in the 1980s. And all of this is putting additional strain on all of the physical and social infrastructure of the country and exacerbating social difficulties and edging the country deeper and deeper into criminality. And meanwhile, while they come in and they take up the jobs, they take up the contracts, they take up all kind of things, because they work for anything, money is gushing out like a busted pipe. Let's look at the Dominican Republic. How many of the people who have been let in here have genuine roots in this country? How many of them are negative elements? I'm not against them. I'm not xenophobic. We have a small, vulnerable country, and it needs to be protected from bad elements within and bad elements that would try to get in. And it needs a firm hand. Is any of the crime being perpetrated here or masterminded here connected to people from those countries? And it's not only people from the region for whom we must have concern, but people from further away, China and India, coming here, getting work permits for jobs and getting business licenses for businesses that locals should be getting. You could understand people's frustration and anger. And don't forget that there has been a buildup of stress, frustration, anger, and poverty as a result of COVID. We have not overcome that yet, and it's going to take a long time for the emotional, psychological impact to wear itself off. The latest example is a foreign-owned business in town that I am told, I hope I'm wrong, has received permission to open a beauty salon and intends to bring 7 or 8 technicians from India or elsewhere. How can this be allowed? What about our hair and beauty service providers? They are already under threat. The same applies to real estate. A number of foreigners are involved in it here. Why? I wrote an article many years ago entitled, "When in Rome, do as the Romans do, and when in St. Kitts, do as you like." Unfortunately, people come in here and pretty much get their own way to do as they like. You know why? Because of the historical slackness of the governance of this country. So they see locals doing as they like, driving as fast as you want. Your radio in your car is as loud as you like. You walk across people. You're rude. You're disrespectful. You're brutish. You're selfish. You don't give a damn. And people come in here and say, that's how they are. We're going to be like that too. And everybody does what they please. That's chaos. The country needs a strong, fair, and compassionate hand. Our leaders need to be strong and fair and compassionate. And the people of this country must be the prime beneficiaries of the protection and empowerment that is offered and provided, mandated for leaders to provide. The situation is serious. We need a comprehensive approach criminal justice, and social and economic intervention. Perhaps most of all, we need a change of attitude. The attitude in the country is bad and getting worse. No respect, no values. Everything has fallen apart. Transactional. Spirituality is virtually non-existent. Hard, tough decisions need to be taken. You see the crime that we're seeing? It's a manifestation of something that's worse, that's behind it. It's the problem that we have to solve. And if we solve the problem, then the manifestations will disappear. Let's hope that our leaders, but more importantly, let's hope that we, the people, decide to be strong and to do the right thing in the interest of all of us and in the interest of generations yet unborn. Thank you.
You know, the situation with Brother Dwyer, right on target with what is transparent in our beloved Federation. But our people don't like to hear the facts, you know. What is happening today in St. Kitts Nevis, it did not just happen today. It was something that was planted. It's like you plant a seed, eventually it's going to grow and it's going to bear fruit, you know. It's not everybody going to be barren. And the last, we say in 7 years, but you could say 8 years because the Labour administration took over a year ago. But so let's say from 2015, and I'm not just saying from 2015 to 2022. We know problems was there prior to 2015, but we are working with 2015 because when I listen to members of the tri-party unity administration that was there from 2015 to 22, when you hear them speaking today, you would think that they're innocent of the problems that we are having. They created more of this problem than the previous years. The problem between them, as Dwyer said, the transactional arrangement, and I want to thank Sam Kanda for clearing up that. Because as I had said to Sam time and time again, I want to thank him and his colleagues, whoever came together and came up with this PLP, and by extension, this team unity. Hadn't we had the opportunity to sense a team unity administration between 2015 and 2022, we would not have nothing to judge them by. The PLP led by Timothy Harris, the Farmer Hub, the People's Action Movement led by Sean Richards, PAM, and the CCM, the Concerned Citizen Movements led by Baby Brantley, the CCM movements that is still there in Nevis creating havoc and the people of Nevis. Hadn't we had that experience with them from 2015 to 2022, we would have never known what we are dealing with, you know. But what is amazing today is to hear the former Deputy Prime Minister, Sean K. Richards. I would refer to him as my partner because he's someone I love and respect as an individual. But what these folks has done as politicians when they got into office, they should be charged with crime against humanity. He sat there between himself, Mark Brantley, and Timothy Harris, the three of them, the head of three government, three political parties. They were the government of 2015 to 2022. And they do all kind of damage to the people. What we are facing today is what the seed they planted, what they created. But today, you have Sean Richards is out there playing Jeopardy. He's asking questions about a hospital. What's going on at a hospital? Well, Sean, you all never built a hospital. You all never maintained the hospital. You all never do what you all needed to do to keep the hospital in good standing. The new Labour administration led by Dr. Terence Joe has now taken up the mantle of making the corrections, and not only making the correction, but building a brand new hospital. And you know something, I look forward to be a part of that process because I am here to support Dr. Joe wholeheartedly to the fullest and make sure that he is successful and the Labour administration and the people of St. Kitts Nevis, by extension, is successful in their bid for our good state of St. Kitts and Nevis. So who want to continue to cuss and don't want to be a part of rebuilding our federation? All I could say later for you. Later for you. Listen to Sean Richards a couple days ago, playing Jeopardy.
What is the long-term plan for the current Joseph Nathaniel France Hospital, named after a stalwart of your Labour Party? Will it be rehabilitated and continue to serve its original purpose, or perhaps a satellite health facility? Or will it be completely renamed and repurposed? What of ongoing human capacity development to prepare our people to deliver the various services? Whatever the plans over the next few years, we must all be guided by the old adage which states, if you move a pig to a palace, the pig does not become a king, but the palace most definitely will become a sty.
And you know, Sean, you're correct with that, you know. You are perfectly correct. You all went in there and you all fool off the people and tried to throw all kind of cloud over Dr. Douglas and the Labour Party and say you all will do better. You all are the better choice. Sam Kanda, Dwyer, Stefan, all of you was a part of the deal. You all said that. But it didn't take long for you all partner, you know. You all prime minister, you all leader. Knowing that you all was all no good for the federation and how bad you all was. You all went into a transactional arrangement as Sam Kanda would say. You all went in there with two individuals as candidates who was found guilty of misuse of their clients' funds, who was supposed to be disbarred and maybe thrown in jail. But because of your transactional arrangement, the leader of the party, the prime minister, the farmer hog, he stopped there, knowing all of these things, and went along with the program. Listen to what he said. And this was recently, you know. He said this last year.
And that is why nobody going sorry for them when they get to jail, you know. Nobody going sorry for them when they get to jail. Because they do enough thieving to get big jails. They do enough thieving to lock them up and show the key. The comrades, no little bit of thieving they do. Pam ain't got in a small thief. Pam got in big thief. Drilling at them things there. Drilling at them things there. I know we're going to see who all get some of the money. I'm glad he ain't going down here one. But all the thieving that they did, they have to pay for that in the country.
So this is the former prime minister telling us that his colleagues in the farm administration was not small thief. A big thief there was. But they all sit there together for 7 long years and do the damage to the country. And when they don't do the damage to the country, they want to come back now and tell us that the damage that they did, in 7 years, the magician, the Honorable Dr. Terence Joe, supposed to come and fix all of that in 12 months. My good people, I'm going to drop some clips in there because I got my receipts them. And I want to say good evening to my sister there, Sister Cicely Brown. I know you want copies of my receipts, but I'm going to keep them in private, sister, because these receipts are going to come in handy pretty shortly. Because all of them are talking, and you got to pay attention when they're talking. Good evening, Brother Daly. How are you doing? Tap your screen, open your mic.
Good evening, Jeffrey. How are you?
Man, I'm here. CPL going to be starting this evening, so I just drop in some clips here, and I'm having a little update to the people because it appears as though some of us want to have amnesia. When I say some of us, I'm talking about them former politicians you all had in the tri-party not too long ago. I see they're having press conference and they're having all kind of jeopardy going on in the federation. So I'm going to drop 2 clips and I'll come back to you. So just stand by because I just dropped a clip there with Brother Sean Richards with his jeopardy question. And I drop a clip with the former prime minister saying all of them are big thief. All of them are thief. They're not thief of small money, a big money, they're thief. I hear the thief in big money in Nevis too. So we're going to talk about that. It's like they're now on a small chase. Not, this is a big money walk up there deal with here. So
Big money wine, dollar wine.
They're not dollar wine no more. Big $100 wine this side. $1 million wine they put on down there for now. Right? So my boy Sam Kanda had a lot to say last week and he's going this program. And he too. I just want to know if Sam does listen to some of the things he said, you know. Because Sam was a part of every administration, you know. He was a part of the Farmer Labor Administration. He was a part of the Team Union Administration. And if it wasn't for Sam, there would not have been a PLP. And if it wasn't for Sam, there would not have been a Team Unity. But if you listen to him speak now, he speak about them. But he need to speak French. He should say we. Not them. And when Sam going to say that Sean should not be talking, well, Sam should let somebody else talk to you, because he was a part of it. He was the ambassador to the United Nations from 2015 to 2020. And it's only when things get hot, he slip over, you know. He's my partner. I love him to death. He has been very nice and very kind. But when you are going to come and mislead the public, DJ Morrishaw even stand by and accept it, you know. I told Sam during the campaign, to get rid of them campaign, talk the things them now before election is over. Don't wait until election over and then come tell me nothing, you know. I want to hear everything now. And I'm seeing some little bits and pieces flying out. All of them was culpable because they sit there with a transactional arrangement and allow these people to mash up the country. Look at where we are. If you listen to the numbers that Dr. Joe was speaking about today, I'll leave that for next week. I don't have enough time this evening for that. But listen to Sam Kanda last week, and you tell me where this makes sense.
Saying what Sean and Pam saying. Sean and Pam, they have no moral authority to speak on this issue.
You understand what I'm saying? Sean and Pam has no moral authority to speak on this topic, but he was a part of it.
Well,
he was a part of the setup.
He has none either.
So he don't have the moral authority to speak on this either. But let him continue.
There have been total failures, absolute failure. You cannot solve the crime problem like they were trying to do by spending money. They have corrupted the system.
I want you to know, and I'm putting it on record. While Sam was the ambassador here at the St. Kitts Nevis, at the United Nations, in 2015 to 2020, I spoke to Sam about these things in his office at the mission. I spoke to Sam about these issues as meeting when we met. Sam had nothing to say. He was as quiet as a church mouse. So to hear him saying these things now, it's surprising to me. He catching me off guard, you know. And I'm going to pull him up on them. Because he was there. He was a part of the problem. But he has a lot to say now.
Well, you see, they say one of the tricks of the devil is to make you believe he doesn't exist.
But the bottom line is, we know the devil exists, you know. I am paying attention. Who don't want to pay attention to them is their problem, but I don't pay attention. So Sam is not going to get away with it and act like he wasn't part of this, you know.
Maybe he is reinventing himself.
Mr. Daly. Mr. Daly. Mr. Daly, I have said this before, right? And I'm going to say it again because I am an open book. Sam Kanda, Dwyer Astafan, and a few others have acknowledged and accept the fact that they came together and brought down Douglas and the Farmer Labour Party.
And they celebrated it.
And they celebrated it. Baby Brantley celebrated it. He said he put Douglas in the departure lounge of politics. Douglas done with. All of them celebrated. They enjoyed it for 7 years, right? And when I first brought Sam and this program, you know, there was some people that was attacking me. They don't want to hear nothing from Sam. They don't this, that. And I tried to explain to them. You got to put country above self, as our motto say. Sam might have done some things that I don't agree with. But those was the machinery used to bring down the farm administration and by then destroy the fabric of our country. So since that was the case, we cannot kill Sam. We cannot destroy their character while getting rid of the cancer that was there, you know. And I asked them to work with me. Let us resolve this problem. And they came in and they said the things then. There's a lot of things they held back, you know. There's still a lot have not been said because they are part of the problem. They're guilty of the crime as well. So now that we have changed direction in St. Kitts, we have a new administration, and we are getting to the core of what the problem was. Don't sit back and say you're innocent. Apologize to the people, say, I made a mistake, or whatever you want to say. But don't come talking as if you wasn't part of the problem, because you were there for 7 years, or even 5 years. You was there for 1 year. You're an adult. You cannot tell me that you didn't see the wrong, because I talked to you about the wrong, and you was as quiet as a church mouse.
What's interesting about Kondo is that he would have made a blunder back in 2014, 2015, when this, even before that, when they ousted Dr. Douglas. He was, well, like I said, he was a deputy prime minister, you know. People don't forget, people not forget this. He was a right-hand man of Dr. Douglas, and he instigated this mutiny against Dr. Douglas, came onto Team Unity, sat there quietly absorbing all of the benefits of being a Team Unity member, kept quiet on the Pay for Peace program and all the other ills, because one thing about Sam Kondo, you know, his ears are always close to the ground.
Yep.
He knew and continues to know what happened during those years of corruption. And so if he's going to be redeemed, he has to confess to the people of what he knows. Right now, he's just giving, he's trying to cast blame and dispersions on somebody else. That's a Brantley move, a redirected move, to say, well, it wasn't me, it was Sean, anybody else. But he, as a grown man, like you said, he needs to take responsibility, come to the people on bended knees and say, listen, I heard back with Douglas, I heard with Timothy Harris, and I need to be confessing my sins and move on. But he's not gonna do that, because he's a politician of that age where people don't say sorry, people don't apologize, you just move on. And he's hoping to get people to understand. He's a new man again, reborn for the third time.
No.
Now he's now Sam the preacher, redeemed in the blood. Who's going to convince you that? To be redeemed, you have to confess.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, in a partner, I am about the country and the people, and I am not going to sit around and allow anyone to mislead the country if I know better. I am not going to assume. I'm going to deal with the facts. And I know the for fact that Sam and all of them, they was praising this peace program. At first, nobody knew about the priest, nothing goes up. I don't know if you can recall when Denzel Douglas first brought up the matter that they're paying criminals in Parliament. They denied, you know. Timothy called on the speaker to tell Douglas to retract, you know.
Yes.
That was a big thing in Parliament. And then all of a sudden, they embrace it. Sean said he did not know nothing about it. Brantley don't know nothing about it. What his name is there. Grant don't know nothing about it. But all of a sudden, it's the best thing since sliced bread.
But I remember hearing Nevis Brantley was bragging and boasting how successful the program was. How that the murder rate has gone down precipitously, that NRP could not control this the way they're doing it in St. Kitts and with the community. He was bragging and boasting that this is his best thing since sliced bread, and now all of a sudden they don't know anything about it.
But didn't he brag that the former Prime Minister, Timothy Harris, was the best Prime Minister ever?
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Anyway, let's continue listening to Sam here rambling on, because Sam need to come and acknowledge. And you see, when they're making this kind of statement, you know, partner, they're not going to make them kind of statement there in this program, you know, because they're going to get questions.
Of course.
But when they're on the friendly program like groundings and whatever, them people not asking questions, they're pacifying them. But if they want to come and tell the truth and confess, they need to come here. Let me ask them the question. Because once I finish with you, you are well cleansed. You're like you just came out of the hot water bath over at Nevis, over there, right? Once you finish with this program, you are well cleansed. So going to freedom, you're not getting away, Sam. This is where you need to come deal with it, right? So let's continue listening.
Crime as a result of that. We cannot let a group hold the country to ransom, and we cannot pay them to do that. You don't reward people for bad behavior. People get punished for bad behavior.
But did Sam get punished for his bad behavior yet?
No, he got elevated.
He got elevated for his bad behavior. And many of the politicians in our beloved federation, they got elevated for their bad behavior. And by extension, the bad boys, them, the gangman, them, even I understand the kids in school, even primary school, they're looking at the bad boys, them in government that get elevated for their bad behavior. So they want to do the same thing.
Yes, it's a fact. I mean, I saw a police, there was a gentleman, some police officers were on freedom some time back, and they were saying the issue with the pay for peace is that it has permeated down and trickled down into the grade schoolers who see their cousins and brothers and uncles and friends receiving money in the pay for peace, and they themselves want to be gangsters. So you're right, absolutely right. It is really contaminated the way we look at justice in this country.
Well, partner, it's unfortunate, you know, but I will not stand by and entertain it as long as I have health and strength. So let's continue to listen to Sam rambling because he needs to come clean.
And that's what you have to do. So, I mean, the last government, Team Unity, Sean, and then they made a mess. They corrupted.
You hear that again? You hear that again? You hear this again, Brother Dale?
Sean and them.
That's what I am saying.
It should be Sean and us, not Sean and them.
It should be Sean and I. We. Not and them, Sam.
Hey,
not and them.
He got some big balls, I tell you that.
No, what happened is, and groundings and the Freedom FM, nobody paying attention to what he's saying. They're just entertaining each other, pacifying each other, tapping each other on the shoulder. But they got to understand that people out here listening, DJ Morrishaw is laser focused. And I'm going to deal with the issues. So Sam, not Sean and them, we. You was the backbone of the PLP. You told me here that Timothy told you, if you're not going to decide to resign from the Labour administration and come down as Deputy Prime Minister, you might as well go, let's go home, pack it up. There would be no PLP without you. You accommodated them. You accommodated the Team Unity. You was part of that accord that Timothy said was not even a Honda accord in the end. Timothy wants to know what accord you're talking about. Not even a Honda accord. Nevis still suffering from it. So the problem is here. Innocent Labour, innocent NRP is being thrown under the bus and been blamed left, right, and center for the downfall for the 7 years that there was there. And that is why I have to be here navigating. Navigating. Because anybody from NRP even think about having a drink with somebody from St. Kitts to commit a crime. That is what the situation was. That is what they created. Because that's Team Unity was the best thing.
That's right.
We're still trying to get out of that hurricane, that whirlwind of politics that they put us in. The division of St. Kitts and Nevis, we're still trying to get out of that.
But I find it very interesting, DJ, that even up to now, you're hard pressed that the trifecta that masqueraded as Team Unity, the two that were eliminated, PLP and PAM, those persons on grounding are not talking about CCM in the same breath.
No,
they're not. It's almost as if hey, listen, let's hands off of that. I find that very, as an division who suffered through along with that period. Because you remember, I lost my job at CFB because of Team Unity, because of Brantley and Sean interference with the administration of CFB. So I suffered along with everybody else.
I did not actually know about the daily. This is news to me.
Yeah. When I went to see Minister Richards, I mean, even before I got into his office, when they first came into office, I already knew because my deputy then told me, listen, you're out. The minister wants you gone. That was Sean Richards. So I was advised by a very good friend of mine, high up in the government. He said, write to the minister and ask for counsel with the minister. Find out exactly what the problems are. Maybe you can avert any issues with him. And I went to his office right down on Church Street. And I said to him, I was there waiting for almost an hour and a half. And he in there lollygagging with some people. And then he finally said, come in. And his whole demeanor was one of just abject hatred. Abject hatred. All right. Right away, he was angry and cantankerous, and I was like, "What happened?" I had to ask him, "Why? What is this about?" And he says, "Oh well, I saw your letter, and your minister from Nevis, Mark Brantley, want you gone." I said, "But you are the minister from St. Kitts. You are my boss, not Mark Brantley." And he said, "I can't do anything for you." Right in his office down there. You understand? So I knew. And the person who told me, "Listen, in 2015, when the government changed, you are gone." I said, "I can't understand why. What sin did I commit?" My record at CFBC was exemplary. The kind of programs we orchestrated was exemplary. The drive towards accreditation, institutionalizing the nursing program, the deep ed program, streamlining the technical division programs, everything was going according to plan. So what was my sin? He said, "You remember in 2014, when Dr. Douglas's office asked you to present the plans for the expansion of CFB to an audience in Jessop's, the Jessop Community Center. You remember when you went there?" I said, "Yes, but I went there at the request of the Prime Minister to tell Nevisians that the government is moving towards expanding a sixth form in Nevis, the CFB 6 wing in Nevis, and that we intend to build a new college over there in Trinity." All right. He said, "That was your sin. You appeared on the stage with the former Prime Minister. And I went there at the request of the Prime Minister, Dr. Douglas. And I went there with the blessings of the Board of Governors. You understand? But poor me, I didn't know I was walking into a whirlwind. Poor me didn't know that the politics had to become so corrosive, because I was not, I was not political, I became political after 2016. I joined NRP in 2016. Not before. People think I've been here the longest. I've not. 2016, I joined NRP basically as a way to say, listen, if they can do that to me, what they can do to the regular guy in the street who doesn't have the kind of wherewithal to defend himself, right? How do you explain the fact that I, Kelvin Daly, was the one who brought into CFBC the financial system that now pervades the system down there that says, listen, you can't have one person controlling the cash and the same person dispensing the cash. It can't happen. You need to have a separation. So I brought in a vice president of finance. And when she was going through and recognizing inconsistencies, that is when I wrote a letter to audit, asked for internal audit of the books. That is when all of the issues were discovered, where money was not being deposited as equally as frequent as it should. It was my hand that wrote that letter to audit. But all of that didn't matter to Sean Richards and Mark Brantley. Their plan was get rid of Daly at all costs. And in a way, I'm glad they did, because I start seeing politics for what it is. All right? It's a nasty, disgusting game where big men victimize smaller men. That's what it's all about. And if you don't have decent people in politics, this kind of incestuous relationship will continue. You understand?
Are you sure?
Right now, the matter with Sean Richards and myself, it was Vance and Mark and Vance Amy and Sean. We're still in court. But I'm not dying of hunger. So I'm not, whatever the judicial system takes, how long it takes, I'll be there waiting, because they will have to face up to justice. For what they did to me, what they did to my family, they will have to pay for it. Simple as that.
You use the terminology big men. The names that you call, they're not big men, My experience with these people, they are not big men. They are confused individuals, right?
They're vindictive men, I should tell you that.
Yeah, they just as you say, you was never into politics, partner. I was never into politics. And anyone who have followed me would know that my spell in politics started when I was put in quarantine by the former hub. back in 2020. And this is where this program came from. But if you listen to some of them who want to see me gone, they would tell you that I brought down Simmons back in the 1980s, 1995, I brought down Douglas and all this kind of nonsense. This program is not even 3 years old as yet. But when they have to spread their propaganda, and this is why I am so cautious when I get information. The situation is that if you listen to things, it sounds good on the surface, you know. What is when you get to the bottom of it, you understand. If I did not experience certain things firsthand, I would have fallen for Timothy and Sam and them nonsense, you know. Because what they were singing, this song is sweet. You're familiar with Sankey, the Sankey book, the hymn book? You know, the songs in the Sankey are more upbeat and sweeter than the regular hymn book, right?
Yeah.
So I used to prefer the service songs when they sing from the Sankey. And these folks are capable. They're very misleading. Baby Brantley, very misleading, very sweet on the mouth, very sweet on the lips. But that tongue is a dangerous tongue to listen to. So let's continue listening to Sam, because partner, I want, when I come back to the Federation, I really have to speak with Sam. I do not know if you don't want to speak with me at this stage of the game, because these are conversations I had with Sam when he was ambassador. Sam was quiet as a church mouse. All of a sudden he's saying them. But Sam, you was a part of it. You know, so let's continue listening.
In fact, we were on the way to solving the problem before Team Unity and Tim and Sean and them intervene, you know.
You hear that?
Wow.
If you listen to what Sam is saying,
we know.
We would have been the former Labour administration that he mashed up, would have been on the way to solve the crime problem with the peace people. Yet they say the peace people coordinate themselves on their own. So let's continue listening to this nonsense here.
But the guys themselves were getting together. That's well known. That this wasn't serving anybody well. Nobody. Neither the victims, nor the perpetrators, nor anybody. And the guys were coming around to look and say, let's get a problem. Let's
and the thing is, right, that point that you're making, that the guys were coming together to solve this problem. My thing is, we need to do an well, not we, but there needs to be an investigation as to who is involved in these things.
Exactly.
And because we don't know.
Involved in what?
In the crimes that are happening. Because some of these people.
But and
Jamie, that is exactly.
No, I'm not meaning. I don't mean like that. I'm saying that the guys were getting together, right, to fix the problem among themselves.
Yeah.
Are these guys who are getting together the ones who are involved in the present situation?
But Jamie, that is precisely what the government, the present government was trying. The government laid out a whole program.
The Elevate.
Well, I don't know. I'm not talking about the name. I'm talking about what they said they were going to do. In fact, they had a thing about the parliamentary oversight of the program, not to run it from the Development Bank under Len Harris. An audit, what you're speaking about, an audit of the program to allay the fears of corruption, to develop a criteria for entry and exit from the program, to integrate the program with the existing programs of STEP and PAP and entrepreneurial programs to achieve genuine reintegration into mainstream life, to dismantle the gangs. You know, it's saying that them guys coming together. That was to dismantle and not come together to solve any problem.
And not only that, but provide mentorship for the younger ones who are in schools, because we do know that there is a serious gang problem within our schools.
That is it, Jamie. It was all laid out. It was printed. It was published. Applied psychoanalysis to determine the root cause of the deviant behavior. Have a truth and reconciliation process to include surviving victims, documentation so that they will be able to access and address such situation on a continuous basis. The government put a whole program, what they're going to do, how they're going to do it.
But this is and I hear all of you say there, but sometimes the issue is implementation.
Exactly.
I mean, how are you going to implement these things? And Jeremy, you made a point. The people who are the stakeholders of the peace, you need to engage them. You need to sit down with them. They're still relevant. You need to know, sit down and ask them, well, what is happening? Because what I'm saying, I understand people are still being paid. My thing is, if you're getting paid, it means then that there should be peace.
You can't pay nobody for peace.
No, I'm saying, this is what I'm saying. I'm saying if they are getting paid, it means then that there should be peace. And if there is no peace, then you should not be getting paid. It's simple. If the former administration came up with a situation that was, to me, just to fix it at the time, that is not sustainable, never been sustainable, but they came up with something. They have now acculturated some of these guys in a way of thinking that is money is the savior. Money is the savior. How you are now going to tell them why this is not the savior? No, the money is not the savior. It's more than the money. Is how you now going to become productive, a productive son of the soil or daughter of the soil, and feel good about yourself. I mean, you could get a job like everybody else, work like everybody else, earn like everyone else, and still feel good about yourself. To sit down and just have people give you free money, to me that is destructive.
Counterproductive,
it is destructive. And so, but we have to convince them of that, because the former administration led by Timothy Harris would have now inculcated that in them, that give you money and you're all right. So it's a serious issue of how are we going to now change that to let them know you got to become a productive citizen. We have to get you on board, and that is why a lot of things must be involved. You can't just leave the guys to fend for themselves.
You know something, Brother Daly, when I listen to my partner, the big license I'm speaking, right? I want to know if they got a memory problem and how things was in 2013, 2014, and upon the election of the Team Unity administration in 2015. You think they got a brain freeze?
They got a brain freeze. They're trying to reinvent themselves, obviously, as if they didn't the one part of this. When did the PFP started? It started when Sam was an ambassador. You understand? It didn't start just now. The program started, I believe, in 2017, thereabouts, 2017, 2018, somewhere there. I can't remember exact year. I think it's 2017 or 2018. All right? It started on the Team Unity, which Sam Condon was a part of. Right? So all the brilliant ideas, saying that he has, that it wasn't going to work. Where was his conscience to say, I stand opposed to this?
But he didn't oppose it daily.
He didn't oppose it.
I can say to you, in 2015, I spoke to Sam here in New York, and Sam was bigging up the program. In 2015, he was bigging it up privately here. So to hear him say now that you can't pay for this and can't pay for that, when he was in support of it.
But what has changed now? I mean, he has a new name. The other commentator, I think it's Big Lice it was, saying that you now have to have the stakeholders involved in this new paradigm. I mean, what has changed? You have got to give him a new name. And myself and Tulu would have predicted that after all of the hullabalooing about the ineffectiveness of the program, it will continue. And the government has given it another 2-year lifeline of monies to continue the program. But those are political decisions. Those are not decisions that would really change the direction of this program. The program needs to be stopped. That's what needs to happen. The program needs to stop.
But Daily,
people are saying that if you stop the program cold turkey, that you're going to lead to mayhem and you're going to lead to all sort of outbreak and violence and all that. All right? That's a possibility. right? But in the meantime, are you beefing up your surveillance of these guys? Are you beefing up your detection? I saw a wonderful initiative that we've been talking about. The government should be doing a long time ago. I saw, I know the government is sponsoring a $25,000 whistleblower award, reward for persons who bring information on heinous crimes. I've been saying that, and a lot of people have been saying it for some time now. You need to incentivize those of us in the so-called good community of people to be information, to gather information for the police, to help the police out, you know? And I'm glad to see that initiative. I salute the government for doing that, right? But more of that need to be done. Otherwise, you know, 2 years from now, what are they going to say? Well, we need to continue the program for another 2 years because, you know, we might be we are afraid that, you know, a war going to be reinitiated. You got 2 years to plan, 2 years to orchestrate a new paradigm of security. That even when your payment stops, you are ahead of the game. You know exactly who your troublemakers are. You keep the pressure on. You make sure this program for the 2 years, people are incentivized to do what they're supposed to do, get job training. And I did not like the presentation as it was made, because it made it seem as if that those persons in the program now have an option to get tuition and training at the technical divisions. Or any other place, there'll be options for training. It should, if you're not working and you don't have a prescribed skill, it should be mandatory, not a choice, mandatory. If you want to continue to receive my tax dollars to help you get your life in order, you must be enrolled, and seriously enrolled in a program of skills development or higher education of some sort. It should not be a choice. And they have put it the way as if it's a choice. Now, how are you going to convince anybody that, you know, I'm going to give you $700 and there's a choice between taking the money and going to trade school or take the money and sit home? What do you think they're going to do? What do you think they're going to do? Why go through trade school and I can get $700 sitting down home?
The situation here, Brother Daly, and I have said this on numerous occasions, we have thousands of our citizens around the globe and right there in our little St. Kitts Nevis, that I'm pretty sure if we put our head together at a town hall and speak to these politicians, we might come up with better ideas. But unfortunately, we elect whether 9, 10, 11 of them, and we give them the opportunity to sit in cabinet at their dinner table and make decisions for all of us. And they don't really have all of the answers, or they don't even have the answers. We might have the better solution than them. Growing up in the Virgin Islands, there was a thing they called the food stamp. And one of the things I could say to you, when I look at hard-working people like me, I used to do 3 jobs in the Virgin Islands, right? And living in the Virgin Islands, having 3 jobs to you, and you still have time to play around, it's amazing. It's not like coming to New York where 1 job will kill you, right? And the people, when you see the end of the month with these people with their food stamps, if you see the amount of trolley they have in Pueblo with food, you know, are you the hard-working man that working 2, 3 jobs, can't afford to buy half of that, you know?
Can't make it.
You cannot make it, you can't make ends meet. Fast forward to New York here, they got the thing they call Medicaid and the same food stamp, EBT cards, whatever. At the end of the month, you go into the supermarkets, the carts them pile up to the top, 2, 3 carts, 1 individual, and you, a hard-working citizen, cannot afford to make ends meet. You can't put nothing in your refrigerator. Now, when I look at St. Kitts and Nevis, I have said this time and time again, but I guess I'm not speaking to the right person or the right people. When you look at the turnaround of our students that leave in school annually, their grades, top-notch, right? When they come out of school, what is there for them to do? What is the opportunity for those kids, right? So the peace, the name of the program, peace program, alleviate, whatever you want to call it. I do not know if the makeup or the process is the right approach, but again, we elect certain people to do what they need to do, and if we don't get the opportunity to have an input, you would not see anything different. But I know that we don't have enough opportunities in our beloved Federation of St. Kitts Nevis to accommodate our population. We do not have enough. Back in the days when we had sugarcane, you come out of school, you either got cut cane or you got factory or you do something. You had what they call it? They had Dandan and they had what the TV factory was there?
Curtis Mattis.
Curtis Mattis and Medusa, Century Shoe and this thing. You would have find something miniature to do. But on an average, we got very educated people in St. Kitts and Nevis, and the opportunities are not there. And this is why I support the approach that the present administration is trying to do to build out. But at the same time, instead of the people that mash up our economy, mess up our tourism, what the word I'm looking for? Our tourism product to advance our people. Look at what they do with the CBI partner. I hear David Bartlett talking about how much $1 million coming in 2020 during COVID. I understand, according to the former Prime Minister, Nevis get over 500 million. What do they do with that money? Where that money gone?
You see, the problem, Jeffrey, is this. One of the problems is this. You have an unequal development. You have St. Kitts now basically on the cusp of taking off or have taken off. And Nevis has been dragging down under this government, CCM government. The difficulty with that is simple as this. Nevisians can simply take the water taxi, take the ferries, and work on St. Kitts. So jobs that really should be occupied by Kittitians living in St. Kitts are being taken by Nevisians because there are no opportunities here. And that's something people have overlooked. One of the crises is of unemployment on St. Kitts is being fostered by the fact that Nevisians are coming down to work in increasing numbers. You go to Park Hyatt, Marriott's, Koi, you go to any business place in Bastia, it's easier to get to St. Kitts from Orly than to get from the port of Charlestown. 5 minutes across the way and you're at work, right? And so when you have unequal development, where no jobs are on Nevis, guess what's going to happen? People are going to go to where the work is. And right now the work is in St. Kitts. So you will have a government like Nevis that is creating a problem, in my view, for the unemployed on St. Kitts. Then the Prime Minister must say, listen, let me step back and watch this guy here. Is this somebody I want to have next to me? He's creating a problem for me with regards to healthcare, with regards to education, with regards to jobs. He's creating a problem for me. He's not only, the government in Nevis is not only sucking on the breast of the federal government for sustenance, but the people of Nevis also have to suck on the breast of the federal government through their jobs programs, through their employment programs, through the expansion and diversification of the economy. And Brandon, like to say, development in St. Kitts being development in Nevis. That's why he like to say, that's his excuse. That is his excuse. And so people like Conda and them, they who like to toe the line for CCM, they must answer to the people in St. Kitts. How is it that so many Nevisians have to come to St. Kitts to find work? What's wrong with Nevis and its economy? There was a time when Nevis led in terms of tourism development. Now we are dead last, not only in relation to St. Kitts and Nevis, but throughout the Northern Caribbean. We can't compare to Anguilla, can't compare to St. Martin, Statia, even Saba, even St. Bart's. Can't compare. So what are we doing? We have become beggars here on Nevis, and I do thank the business establishments in St. Kitts who have given us a break. Then they ask you if you're from Nevis or wherever. They tell you once you qualify, you come. But that point needs to be borne out. That point needs to be borne out. So when Brantley talking about the number of persons who departing early pay, the thousands who go and the thousands who come, ask him why they're leaving. Who in Nevis want to transit across the St. Kitts to work? Where they can get a suitable employment here in Nevis? Who wants to do that? But you have no choice. You have to go where the money is. And that is a big, big problem for us. Big problem. You understand? Because then you see, when you work in St. Kitts, you're going to buy your food, you're going to buy your lunch, you're going to buy your whatever you St. Kitts. The Nevis business suffer. So it's a continuous chain reaction of loss. Of loss. You understand? That is where we at.
We got some serious problems, and the big is like we continue to be hoodwinked by these people because they create the problem and they come back and act like it wasn't me. Let's continue listening to Brother Sam Kanda here, because I mean, I am not at a loss. I am laser focused on what is transpiring, but I am surprised that these people even has the audacity to come and speak publicly about things that people knows better.
Two things. I want to start at the beginning. So that's always the best place to start. Before the 2015 elections, somewhere about, I wonder if it's 2013 or thereabout, Len Harris was manager of the Development Bank, was put on, what do you call it, administrative leave or whatever kind of leave they call it, because there was some concerns about what was happening in the bank. Put on leave for investigation, and that is something that it was not only a decision from the local government, right? It was some concerns that the Caribbean Development Bank had with the way the Development Bank was running. So Len was put on leave in order to do some investigation and so on and to have the thing going. The day after the election in 2015, Len was back out to work.
Again, Brother Daly, we're talking about pre-2015.
Yep.
Sam Kanda was a part of the Labour administration. He was the Deputy Prime Minister. He is aware that there was concern about Len Harris, according to him, who was at this bank under the former Labour administration. They put him on leave to do investigation. You switched from the Labour Party, you went and you was a part of this new PLP, by extension, Team Unity Administration. And the day after the election, they bring Len back to the same bank that he was supposed to be investigating about. And you sit there
with no objection.
With no objection. You sit there. You sit there for 7-8 years, and it's now you're coming to talk about it. And I'm supposed to give you credit for that.
He sat there for 7 years and suck up the gravy, suck up the oxygen, and no one to pretend that he wasn't a part of it. Come on, man.
Anyway, let's continue listening.
But you do remember leading up to the 2015 election, that was also a talking point.
Exactly.
But there were those who felt that he was placed on leave because of victimization.
Yeah, well, I understand that. But you know, you must do it properly. You must say, if you believe it was victimization, check it out. You're the government now. Before you just bring him back, find out what happened, do your investigation. You can't just bring him back, the government send him home, and even the day after the election, you bring him back. Find out what happened.
That is
you see when Sam bringing up this concern, partner? From 2015, he sit in a position of being a partner of the PLP with Timothy Harris. He sit there as the ambassador to our Federation of St. Kitts Nevis in New York. He go back and forth, and he had no concern about Len Harris until now.
Let me tell you something, Jeffrey. Dr. Harris came into power in 2015 with one seat, his own seat, one. Right? One. Sam Kanda obviously was a close confidant of the former Prime Minister, Dr. Harris. Very close confidant. What do you think? Don't you think that the move to put Dr. Harris at the head of the government would have precipitated the return of his brother? Was there any negotiation not to have him back? Was there any concern expressed during those meetings to say, listen, we can't bring back Len Harris because of X, Y, or Z? I mean, to hear some kind of try to to absolve himself as if he was not a close confidant of the former prime minister is sacrilegious. I mean, it is sad that an elder statesman cannot bring himself to apologize to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis and try to make good on it, rather than try to say it's them. You know, I mean, that kind of personality doesn't suit him, because I don't think he's a narcissist like Brantley.
I just about to say to you, I would hope that the people of Nevis are paying attention, because these are the same people that knows all the wrong that is happening in St. Kitts and accommodated it. And it was okay while they was benefiting. Same thing happening in Nevis. They are the same people that is accommodating baby Brantley over in Nevis. They know all the wrong that's going on in Nevis. And I will die saying this. What we found out since the change of government in St. Kitts, I bet you my last dollar that is worse in Nevis.
You would win. You would.
Okay?
I wouldn't bet against you.
It's worse in Nevis. But for whatever reason,
let me tell you
they're
something.
covering baby Brantley.
Well, I'm telling you something. We have, let me see, 1, 2, 3 statutory corporations on Nevis. ASPA, Solid Waste, and Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation. All right? By law, they are supposed to present to be laid in the House each year an audited account of their books. None have made that trip to the Parliament since 2013 when NRP demitted office. None. Zero. You know what that means? It means two things. One, the regular mechanisms to audit books that the government has, the government's Department of Audit, cannot go into statutory corporations to do it. It must be an external audit to be laid and before the House. They have not done it. Now you have corporations like Nevis Housing and Land Development that are borrowing tens of millions of dollars from Social Security and from other lending institutions, not only here, but throughout the region. Right now, they're over $50 million in loans to Social Security and other entities. 50 million, right? But you cannot see their books. What they present is a line in the government's overall debt status at the end of the year in the audit report, in the government's budget presentation. You cannot see the details of what the money was spent on. How in God's name, Jeffrey, you are selling houses, you are selling land, which persons have to go to the bank to borrow for? They go to the bank, say credit union, for example, they borrow $300,000 to buy an affordable home. That money is deposited with Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation. And then you pay the mortgage to the bank. You understand? So how is it you are borrowing $10 million to build houses? Over the years, it's come to over $40, $50 million. How is it all those houses you have built have been sold, but you still owe the bank $40, $50 million? How is it that's possible? Have they made investments in something that we don't know about? They need to bring the audited accounts to the public. That is their regulation by law. You understand? And they're not doing it. They refuse to do it. And so when you see them going up the steps and taking pictures with the integrity in public life with the little folders, okay, fine, that's your personal matter. I don't know what's in the folders. Show me the audit reports. Show me the audit reports from Housing and Land, especially from Housing and Land. Show me those. And then we can have a conversation. We don't talk about democracy. Don't talk about, you know, your government is the most transparent and the most accountable. And you refuse to lay before the House, as required by law, your audited accounts for each year that you're in existence. Then we can have the conversation.
We know all of that is bullshit. You know, over the last couple of weeks, I've been doing some investigation, but I have yet to get my hands and the oath of office for the speaker, the speaker of the NIA, or the president of the Assembly Day Nevis. I need to get my hand.
You know that the speaker, the former speaker, is still getting paid. They have him there as an advisor to the speaker, the new speaker.
No, I do not know. But I need to get my hands on a copy of their oath of office, because I really need to get under their thing, because one of the problems that I am having with Nevis right now, it's bad enough that you have a corrupt government, mismanagement, misuse, whatever you all want to call it. All the big words are the small words. I would want to know, how could individuals such as the Speaker of the NIA Assembly or the President stand by and know that all of these things, they're hearing it, they're not deaf. They got to be hearing these things in the public square.
Who is our boss? Who does she work for?
Well, this is why the people, I keep saying, Kelvin, the people, they all work for the people,
Yeah, but I'm telling you, she works in Daniel Brantley's law firm.
I do not know.
I'm telling you.
So I am saying to you, so we need to do something about this. We need to put a stop to these things.
This is what I call a futile cycle. A cycle that spins around and everybody's feeding off of everybody else. Right? You have a situation now where I believe the speaker, a young lady I taught in high school, brilliant young lady, I love her to death. Why does she need an advisor in the person of the former speaker of the house? You have one speaker in the house in St. Kitts and an assistant. They didn't have the former speaker advising or leading through. She doesn't need that. But they keep him there. This is a man close 80 years old. Don't live his life, don't collect all the money, and he's getting more money as an advisor to the present speaker of the house. Still using a government vehicle. Still paid by the taxpayers of Nevis.
So you change government in St. Kitts because you want a better day for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. But you got some remnants in Nevis, and not only that you have the remnants live over in Nevis, you have the same old advisors and speakers advising. So when poor Nevis gonna get a break? If the people of Nevis don't get up and stand up to these people, when will poor Nevis get a break?
Well, we got a partial break when Janice defeated Zook over there in St. James. Partial break. We had a break when Dr. Badu defeated Brantley up there in Nevis to St. John's. But we all know the shenanigans that they pull to continue ruling this country and destroying this country. I mean, listen, the Nevis people, I can feel it. They're fed up of these crooks. They're fed up of being taken to the cleaners. They're fed up of this rampant corruption that never ends. It just gets worse and worse every time. I mean, I did a report and I released the story on Saturday on my show, and then I brought it back on Monday about the 65 acres of land down there, which is supposed to be phase 2 of the fruit orchard. They started clearing the land, Jeffrey, last year before elections. Last year before elections, they started clearing the land. They finished 2 months after elections in December. And when I inquired further and further and dig deeper and deeper, the land is 65 acres. Some scrub, nothing big trees. And they billed to the government, they billed to us, the people of Nevis, to clear those 65 acres, was $1.3 million. When the closest, the highest bid, if this person was not a friend of the prime minister of the minister for St. James, it would have been like 300,000 at the highest, 400,000 at the highest. It came in at 1.3. And if you go down right now, you see no fencing, you see no plants, you see nothing there but the regrowth of the trees that they pushed down. And all that was an exercise to get money out of the treasury easily. They have the invoices, they have the hours, billable hours, they have blah, blah, blah. So it's a legal transaction. They have a mechanism to milk the treasury for $1.3 million. This is what is happening. And the sad thing about this thing, the government, the Housing and Land Development Corporation owns backhoes and they own excavators that could have done the work themselves. The Ministry of Agriculture had a backhoe, a brand new backhoe donated to them by the Taiwanese about 2 years ago. They could have done the work. When I was in charge of agriculture, the 90 acres where they have the fruit orchard now, the 90 acres that I cleared off, the Ministry of Agriculture had a bulldozer. I didn't bring in no private contractors. I didn't bring in my friends who have heavy equipment, and I have many friends who have heavy equipment. I use the resources that the government assigned to the Department of Agriculture to do the clearing. How can you justify having equipment on your roster and choose to go outside of that to hire your friend who is very close to you as an associate is close to the minister? How is this not jailable? How is this not cronyism? How is this not defrauding the people of Nevis? So rather than address that issue of corruption in his own government, he chose to go on a personal attack on me as per usual. He chose to go after Dr. Hodge as per usual, not addressing the fundamental question of corruption, not addressing it by any stretch of the imagination, not even say he ain't true. He ain't say, well, he only partially true. A totally ignorant response from the premier. No one to hear nothing about cleaning his own house. He can say, well, she house dirty too, and he house dirty too. Listen, we are not in government, you are. You're accountable to the people.
I can say to you this. You don't have to be a scholar to know when somebody thieving, right? I guarantee you that you take anyone out of any other regional, any one of those islands in the region there, anyone to come in and investigate the last administration and make a presentation, every last one of them go jail.
Have to.
Every last one of them.
Have to.
It's plain for everybody to see. When some people out there defending, I don't understand what they're defending. Because there is not, you cannot defend the indefendable. You cannot defend it.
You had Mr. Cozier on your program about a month ago. Brilliant interview. Congratulations to you. And he laid it out. And I think we in NRP, we need to pay more attention to this interview that he did with you. It was a brilliant interview. And I've read the affidavit that Mr. Cozier submitted. I've read the defense affidavit that Brantley put in. And you notice some things. And there is no defense for what Mr. Cozier is alleging. Misfeasance in public office. He has them nailed to the cross. And this is one lawsuit he don't want to talk about, because it goes right to the heart of who he is and who Brand is and who his administration is. He goes right to that heart, and they're going to be proven in the court of law that the corruption in the CCM government is real and is costly, not only in terms of cash, but lost productivity, in victimizing divisions, right? In holding back the country. You're going to find that out. So he can run and hide as much as he wants to hide. He can throw as much wood and shade as he wants. He have to answer in court. And people need to get themselves acquainted with that lawsuit. This is a misfeasance in public life, charging that these guys use their office to benefit themselves on a personal level. That's what the charge is, you know.
Which is a crime.
How you, yeah, of course it's a crime. How do you walk away, or how do you walk back the fact that you as a minister of energy, you as the premier of Nevis, your law firm, which you own and proven in law that is yours, that they are holding a retainer to represent NEVLEC, for which you are in charge of, and charging NEVLEC $8,000 a month retainer fees? How can you walk away from that? You can't. How can Brand walk away from $120 million Atlantic View Hotel development, out there in the middle of nowhere. How can you walk away from that? You can't. And so their silence is a nightmare for them. They can't shake it. And they will not shake it. Because any just court anywhere will say, listen, this is a conflict of interest. You are gaining financially when the law says you should not. And Harry Truman said it best, if you come out from government richer than you went in, you stole it. And we all see the big houses, we all see the fancy cars, we all see the houses for the kippers and the shimmers and all them kind of people there. We all see it. It's right there. They can hide it as much as they want and put in all false names and girlfriend name and all kind of things. They could do what they want to do. But this matter is a matter of record. This misfeasance case is a matter of record. We know how much Brand charged for the hospital design, that disaster up there. An unqualified draftsman who do a development like that, $2.5 million for out of 19 million off the top, and an election year. This is not coincidence, This is a deliberate attempt to defraud the people of Nevis. Deliberate. And we all see now the ramifications of that, where they can't finish, and it will never finish, because all advice is telling them, tear it down and start again. It was done badly, it was done wrong. How did Brand get a contract to design a $19 million hospital wing with no design experience, none whatsoever, no tendering, and the law is quite explicit. Any amount over a certain have to go for tendering. Brandley handed the contract to Brand to design the hospital, knowing fully well that Brand needed the money to go run his campaign in 2017. These are incontrovertible facts. How are they going to walk away from this? They cannot walk away from this. And the sooner this matter gets before the court and gets adjudicated, the sooner Nevis can breathe a breath of fresh air. Because they cannot win this case. They cannot.
That I am pretty sure of. Let's continue listening to Brother Sam Kanda rant, because we're not going overtime tonight. CPL start at 7, so I'm going to definitely end by 7. So let's continue listening to Sam Kanda. But I want to put you on notice. I have so many clips here for this evening. We will not be able to finish them. So I would like you to make some time, if not next week, sometime that we could finish this thing. Yeah. So we're doing this program in 2 parts. So stand by.
So, I mean, it's obvious that it wasn't a victimization, because you see what happened now, a continuation of that. And then the second thing I want to say is that after the elections, the setting up of the new Social Security Board, Len Harris was put on as a member of the Social Security Board. I went to the Prime Minister. I told him that is not a good thing. Development Bank is the biggest client of the Social Security.
So you felt there was a conflict?
Conflict of interest, clear conflict of interest. Your biggest client and the most delinquent client. And he's on Social Security. I didn't leave it there. I spoke to the Attorney General, Josie Bayo, and I said, this is a conflict of interest. So I spoke to the Minister. What's his name?
And you're saying that you spoke to the
I spoke to them personally. No, I'm telling you, because it just didn't make sense. It wasn't adding up. Len was sent on leave to do something. They brought him back. You set up Social Security Board, and Len is a member of the board, the biggest client and the most delinquent client. So and I spoke to Vance Amory.
So when you went to these officials and you shared your concerns, what was the response?
They just dismissed you. Nobody took you on.
You heard what he said here?
Yeah.
That's how they dismiss me when I speak to them. They just listen, no response.
What happened to the principal stand of resigning? What happened to the principal stand of taking to the public and say, listen, now, I'm a principal, I cannot support this. there's so many things wrong, I can't support this. This is what principled people do.
So,
You
so
don't
when,
fuck it
so,
up,
so,
and then at the last moment come and say, I spoke out against it. What the hell? What good is that? What?
well,
Where's the principle stand?
Brother Daly,
Where's he's there getting all the benefits, drinking all the soup, right? And then come out here and I say, I spoke to the Prime Minister, I spoke to the AG. Who the hell cares?
he
What
spoke
did
to,
you do?
don't forget he spoke to Van Sammy too.
And Vance Emery. You know, come on, man. Where did you expect this conversation to go? You are asking the Prime Minister, who in good and deliberate judgment put his brother on the Social Security Board. You don't think he knew that was a conflict of interest? You don't think Vance Amy, who was the greatest advisor to the Prime Minister, knew that was a conflict of interest? You don't think the Juicy Byron, whose life was resurrected by Team Unity and the former Prime Minister, knew that there was a conflict of interest? Then what the hell are you talking about? Who are you complaining to? You should have brought it to the public. Is our money paying you? There's no principle left in this world. Listen, I'm not going to blow my own horn, but I remember when I was in contention for the deputy principal of Charleston Secondary School back in the day. And it seemed to become a political football because they suspected me of supporting my friend Hector in Charleston. And I remember hearing a comment made by the former, now deceased Vance Emery. A very derogatory comment. And I sent in a letter withdrawing my nomination from it. I said, I don't want to be a part of this. I don't need this in my life. There are times when you have to stand up, just like you stood up down on Church Street. There are times when you have to stand up and carry that cross, my brother. Even when the world is against you, you have to stand up and carry the cross for your own self, for your own satisfaction and your peace of mind. You have to stand up and carry that cross. He now want to say, you know, he talked to all his people. I mean, that's BS. Where was the principle stand? That's what he need to answer. Come on. It's ridiculous.
What Sam talking about now? Sam knew about it then. Sam had all the opportunities in the world to speak on these things. I gave him all the opportunities and he stayed mum.
Did he ever?
He gave me some stuff, but he stayed mum. So these things he talking now, I mean, I would have definitely asked him, you know. Let's continue listening because we're getting closer to that cutoff time. So let's listen to Sam.
Nobody took it. I mean, and this is what happening now. What is 7 years later?
8
years later, a clear conflict of interest. And I don't know how the Attorney General couldn't see that, and the Prime Minister, and Minister Amri.
That's right.
And this is the result of all of that.
You're laughing.
I laugh when you say Attorney General couldn't see that. I wonder what the Attorney General will ever. He saw anything at all? Well, you know, you finished, Sam?
No, go ahead.
Or you can come back after?
No, all day I could stay here with this.
Oh, I know that. But, you know, yesterday I listened. You know, whenever Dr. Drew is on, I try to listen.
That's the only time you listen for
I try to listen.
Just
I always listen to you, Jamie, always.
I didn't send me, I said freedom.
Well, I'm telling you now, always listen. But no, yesterday, and I guess some of the things that he was saying, I knew already. But, you know, these are things that we ought to let people know. They shouldn't be secret. We should have them out there, let people know.
Not cutting you off, but leading up to the 2022, the 2022 elections, we did hear some of this in commentaries from Dwyer Astafan. He spoke about the situation at the Development Bank. He spoke about Social Security, and he also spoke about the National Bank. But to actually hear the figures, it was kind of, revealing. And
I'm happy you said that because during my live, I mentioned some of these too. And what I'm getting at, Len Harris was there during the Labour administration, right? The falling out came, And all of a sudden, we knew what Len was doing. The question is, was Len doing this before the falling out came? That is how far back I would go. Was he doing this when things were good, when Labour was in?
Far back like when?
Whenever he started. Okay. I'm talking about he was there in the good days of Labour too. I'm saying we only heard about it after the falling out. My question is, was he doing it before the falling out? This is what we had to ask.
And then a point that Mr. Conda made too. You alluded to the fact that the Development Bank was one of the most delinquent clients of Social Security. So this seems to date back for some time.
And so it is important because you got to understand how the former Prime Minister, how he thinks, Timothy Harris. He looks at situations where he could take advantage of things that are in place. It's not by accident. Who was the chairman of the board at Development Bank? The chairman of his party. Then you had the doctor who came in, was on the board. Len was put on Social Security board. And you have to ask the question now, who was the director of Social Security? What I'm saying to you, the way how Tim operates is that he's going to put his people in place so that things would happen even without the board saying that it can happen. So you had somebody facilitating down the Social Security, you had somebody on the board who was Len Harris, and then you had the board of Development Bank who he put his people there. It happened at National Bank too. He put the people in place when we're talking about it. Who was the chairman of the National Bank board? And so whenever monies are to be transferred or things are to be done, he would make sure he has his people in place. So a lot of things happen in that Development Bank. Not a little bit of things. A lot of things. I mean, they have people who complain daily. They are being called and asked and said that they owe X. And they said, no, I only have one more payment to go. How could I owe X? And they say, hold on, and they go back and they say they can't find file and they can't find file. A lot of files in Development Bank are missing. A lot of files, people are getting wrong information. And if so, if you're not paying attention, you could easily be paying more than you ought to pay because they might be putting it on. I know, I ain't asking you, I know I've seen letters. People in Development Bank who got loans and then the loans were written off, poof, because they were active with the former administration.
Okay, you're making some serious allegations.
I didn't call a name, Jamie.
Yeah, but
I didn't call a name. But what I'm saying,
my question is, right? If these are things that are no, you know what I don't understand in St. Kitts? We always know, but we never have. Okay, you've seen letters. Why have not these letters been made public? You understand what I'm saying? Because I feel like, and it goes back to the situation with crime as well. We know, but it's a known fact. The streets know, but we pretend officially that we don't know.
But then the Prime Minister said in due time. The Prime Minister said in due time, and we have to hold into that. In due time, things he said he was waiting. So in due time, I think there is enough evidence down there.
You mean in his time, due time?
Well, that
no, the Prime Minister said that he would table the audit.
No, Sam is correct. Sam is correct. In due time.
So, Brother Daly, you see them playing around here with the nonsense. All of them is guilty of this crime, eh?
What I find fascinating with this last clip is that the question asked by Big Lice, how far back was Len a good player during the time of Labour, the good time of Labour, and when did he turn bad? And Sam should be able to answer that because he was there.
Correct.
He was there. But he kept quiet on this one.
Very quiet.
So he must have known if Len Harris was bad prior to 2015, then what did he do in prior to 2015 to make sure that the badness didn't continue?
Correct.
And he was deputy prime minister.
Yeah.
You know, these guys have faulty memories, or a chip is missing in their brains, or something, or they're just deliberately worthless and don't want to talk the truth. You know, but like you said, they can fool some people sometimes, but they can't fool all the people all the time.
No, they definitely can't fool me. Let's squeeze in this. Let's squeeze in this final clip before we call it a night, because CPL is about to start at 7, and I don't want to miss the first ball. So stand by.
First of all, from Premier Mark Brantley, and he had to explain and counter the argument made by us that he had received in excess of 300 million. So here is how he explained the money.
The number that we had, that we have looked at and that has come to the NIA, is more in the order of about $260 million. That is money that the NIA would have received. And I have said it here time and time again that whilst we are absolutely grateful that we've received something, we continue to make it very clear that this is nowhere near a fair share of the CBI resources that we have always said should be shared equitably. And I don't say equally, because Sinkis is much bigger than Nevis. We can't expect an equal share, but we expect an equitable share. And the Prime Minister knows that. I think the Cabinet knows that. I think we've been very clear. In fact, the Charlestown Accord that formed the basis of Team Unity spoke in terms to the CBI proceeds being shared on a pro rata population basis. And since Nevis has 1/3 of the Federation's population, then one would expect that 1/3 of the monies would flow. In fact, when we have done the math, less than 10% of the money from the Citizenship by Investment program is flowing.
This problem, apart from the hunger for power, power for its own sake, is that Mark can manage. Since we came in office, we have given Mark more monies than any other premier of Nevis has had. Before our time, no money for Nevis. We started with 30 million. We increased it when Mark come to 45. You understand? 50%. He came, he voted for the budget in 2021, and he said the 45 was good. Then he come in January to harass me. He wants $66 million. I said, Lord, this gonna look good.
Okay, this is where we are now. 30 million, 45 million, 66 million. Hope you have your pens and pencils and paper. Remember, he accounted for $260 million. But then they fell out. And after the falling out, this is what Timothy Harris had to say.
Under former administrations, the Nevis Island administration checks will bounce and pay. Under the Harris-led Team Unity administration, the NIA has received financial support. And I'm speaking to the NIA, and I'm speaking to entities in Nevis, have received financial support of one form or another, totaling approximately $400 million.
Gentlemen, here is my simple position. And we have been saying it all along, but let me get direct this evening. Timothy Harris has said that Nevis has received 400 million. The figure has gone higher than that now. It is over 500 million. But let us go back to that particular point in time, after the falling out. We said that Mark had received and the Nevis Island government had received more than 300 million. So he felt that he had to justify the fact and prove that he had only received about 260 million. Timothy Harris says 400 million. 140 million missing. 140 million. 260 million, 400 million. I have long said that this is, what you call it? What kind of enterprise you call it?
Criminal.
A criminal enterprise. The whole government, all of them implicated, is a criminal enterprise. If Timothy Harris, the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, argued publicly that Nevis had received more than 400 million, but at that point in time they could only account for 260 million, fellows got their hands in the cookie jar. People have been stealing the money coming from syndicates, and that is why they cannot account for the money. Let them come and give a full accounting of how they have spent 400 million, how they have spent 500 million, because they will have an additional problem. Dr. Daly was careful to tell you that the revenue has amounted to over 700 million. So he has to give account for $1.2 billion. Those of you who came home for Culturama, those of you who live here, I want you to show me what in Nevis you can tell me that, listen, here is the evidence. This is what we have. I am convinced more than ever, having gone back through and listened to all of these tapes and looking at the numbers, that they are thieving left, right, and center. And they're not thieving small change. These fellows have become so bold that it seems to me as if they are taking out now by hundreds of thousands. Similar to, they tell me that somebody cleared down 65 acres of land for $1.3 million. Jesus, Lord, I must.
Yes, Brother Daly, you're closing your comments.
DJ, let me first, in the first instance, thank you for hosting me again. And, you know, the reality is sinking in, I believe, in the psyche of Nevisians, whether they're in the diaspora or here, that we have a government unlike any other government we've ever had in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, where resources that belong to the people are being squandered and stolen by those guys we have in government who are supposed to be the guardians of the public trust. It's like having a fox guarding a chicken coop. These guys are stealing, they're thieving the resources of our country. And as I keep saying, this is not an innocent crime. On the last weekend, there's some guys tried to hold up with a gun Ram supermarket there at Stony Grove. A gun. They got away with nothing. But they're gonna say they're gonna face some serious jail time because they were caught. You have guys stealing millions with a pen, living lavish lifestyles, driving the best cars, living in the biggest houses. And they are getting away with it for the time being. I would really hope that the bill that was passed in the federal house, the anti-corruption bill, that is soon operationalized, that the special prosecutor that the AG is hoping to be seated will be seated. Because one of the first complaints made by the NRP must be to investigate the matter of corruption on Nevis, to look at what's happening at all the statutory corporations that are refusing to lay before the House their audited accounts. It has to be done, and the sooner the better. And I remind those persons in the federal parliament what Mark Brenty said when he got up to give his presentation on that same anti-corruption bill. And you know what he said? I'm going to remind the people, nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. This coming from the Premier of Nevis. in a federal parliament telling the federal ministers of government debating an anti-corruption bill, nothing will happen. I'm hoping that the London Attorney General and our esteemed Prime Minister and all the members of the SNLP sitting and listening to him would have a different opinion, that something will happen. And you, Mark Brantley, will be the test case. Because I can't see how anybody can call themselves a parliamentarian, whether they're in the federal parliament or in the Nevis Island Assembly. How you cannot be cognizant of what is happening in this island of called Nevis and not be deeply disturbed. The evidence is there. It is clear as day. These guys are robbing the island of Nevis blind. They're robbing the people of Nevis blind. There are too many people out there struggling to put food on the table, to keep the lights on, to keep the water on, for these guys to be walking away with our resources and putting in harm's way all those families who are struggling. There's not a day I don't go to the supermarket and people are putting back stuff on the shelf because they can't afford it. These are working class people who are walking with their phone calculators, trying not to be embarrassed when they get with the cashier to have enough. How are we living like this? How can we allow this country to continue its slide backwards when you are sucking salt every time you go to the supermarket out to pay your bills at the end of the month? This is bigger than any one of us. We are fighting for the life of Nevis and his people. And that is where my heart is. That is where your heart is. That is where all of us should be. I thank you, Jeffrey, for having me again. We'll catch up another time. Enjoy your cricket.
Thank you, Brother Daly, for that closing. We have, 2 minutes? And the St. Kitts Patriots is going to be batting first. The Jamaica Talawas is going to be taking the field. So we're going to drop our closing track here and I'll be out of here with some speed. So thanks again for joining me, brother. I look forward to talking to you at some other time.
You're welcome.
This closing track, is an official anthem of the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis. According to my standards, the late, great, the King Arrow, this one is called Arise. And
your country dying and never lend a helping
unification, building a brand new nation. We move on together hand in hand. Rise, citizens, arise. The country is yours, all yours, still yours. Can your conscience be clear? Indulging corruption or misusing public office, being accused of unemployment and crimes, or disrupting a citizen's peace. Oh, my country in disharmony, separated politically. Hatred for a brother, cannot love each other. No, I say no, not at all. Citizens, let's unite and stand up for rights, all our lives and our lives. Let us reintegrate and correct all mistakes. Reunification, building a brand new nation. We move on together hand in hand. So rise, citizens, arise. The country is yours, all yours, still yours.
Yes, that's the song of the late great King Arrow. That one is called Arise. And my good people, after 1 over, the Patriots have 14 runs without loss. So at this time, I'm going to call it a night and wish God blessings on everyone. Look forward to see you back here next Wednesday, same place, same time, 6 o'clock this time. Want to say a happy belated birthday to my son there, Jeffroy Jr. Celebrated birthday yesterday. Want to say good evening to Sister Ann Farrell Smith, Sister Cora Bennett, Beverly Morrishaw, Gwyneth Morrishaw. Want to once again big up the dancing commissioner. He's in the house. We're going to be watching some cricket here as we have a good fun there. All right.